In this video, I'm going to show you how you can quantify intensity and distance along lines. So we consider this image sequence which represents our cell. So it was a cell that was acquired where histone H1 were tagged with GFP. And so on time 3, there's a FRAP experiment. So FRAP stands for fluorescence recovery after photobleaching. So there's this region is photobleached at time 3, and then you can see how it recovers. So in this video, we're not going to be interested in that experiment, but just to see how we can use regions of interest that are defined as lines to do some quantification. So let's start by selecting the straight line, and let's say that I want to look at the fluorescence along those 5 spots, regions of brighter fluorescence, and I want to look at it so I can evaluate the fluorescence change. So what you can do is that you just define your line like this, and then you can measure the fluorescence across the line by going to Analyze and push Plot Profile. Okay, so here it's fairly simple. You have actually the first peak, second, third, fourth, and fifth peak, so corresponding to these 5 bright regions. Something that can be interesting as well is that you can use the live feature, and when you do live, then you can modify. If you modify the image that is visualized, it's going to modify the histogram as well. So if I change the time, for example, now the curves correspond to each time step. Okay. And the other thing that might be of interest is that you have the distance actually, and here as we have a distance in microns, you have a distance in microns here. So I know that from the beginning to the end, I have a distance of about 18 microns. And you can always, so here we can verify that the fluorescence makes sense. We start in the cell, so with a lower intensity than in the peaks, of course, but it's higher than at the end where we're in the background. So you can, of course, change a few things. You can save the data, so we have a table with all these values. If you want to do some analysis, you can also here change the range, so the scales of your histograms, etc. That's pretty straightforward. Now you can use another tool with this. So with all these regions of interest, if you right click, you have other options. And for example here, let's say that you want to measure the perimeter of the cell. So you can, for example, you can use the segmented line. So let's do this, and let's do it for maybe the first step. Okay, so I click one, so left click, and it removed the row, and now I can set up a new row. And you see in that setting now you just define points that are part of the line. And it's funny with the live, you see that you are at each point you add, you actually modify your histogram. Okay. Oh, and I didn't want to stop there, but I double clicked. So I'm gonna redo it quickly. So you can double click on or right click to get your last point. I don't need to be extremely precise because you'll see at the end there's an interpolation that is applied, and so it's smooth. the line a little bit, not that much. You can, can change it afterward if you want. And so you see here I have the plot profile. I also have the distance. So perimeter seems to be a little bit over 70 microns. Something you can do, so here it's not going to be very informative, but in other cases it could, is that you can straighten this line. So to do that, you go to Edit, Selection, and then you have a Straighten. And you choose the width of the new line, of the new image. Title, we'll keep it that way. And you see here, it's actually starting at first point and ending at the last point, but straightening this line. And you see at the bottom of this image, it's the inside of the cells, and at the top of the image, it's the background. So that's why the top is black and the bottom is in gray levels. And here you see you have the size of your image that actually corresponds to the perimeter of your cell in that case, which is 72.21. It's not very precise because I didn't end up my line exactly where it started, but it's fairly precise.